just going to say a warm welcome to you. It's the third edition of Adventurous Edinburgh, actually, and it's going to be the last event before the summer break because it's lovely outside. And I think everyone's possibly itching a little bit to get out on the bike instead of sitting on a chair and talking. But that's what we're here for. So, my name is Markus. I've initiated the whole thing here. I've ridden around the world on a single speed bike, and when I came back to Edinburgh, I was talking to a couple of people who live here and just figured out there's so many people in Edinburgh that do quite incredible things, and this is really just a platform to have a chat about the things and to explore some of the things a bit more, and most importantly to inspire you to go out, grab your bike, go for a run, go camping, go hiking, do whatever you want and enjoy the beautiful countryside we have in Scotland. So I'm very pleased tonight. I'm obviously quite a keen cyclist myself. It's quite nice to have three very keen people on two wheels here. Ed Shoote, who runs We Love Mountains. Can I say that? Yeah, possibly. Yeah. Quite an interesting blog, especially for the 5 rules of bikepacking. I'll come back to that later. Marion as well. I guess you're married then? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And Naomi Freireich, who is a 24-hour racer, possibly the best description. Yeah. And I think it's quite interesting because I'm just gonna the format of tonight is we're gonna have a chat about certain things, and feel free to ask questions afterwards as well. I think it's the nature of the event to explore certain things a bit better. I think I had a look at your blogs and did a bit of digging into it. It's incredibly hard for Ed and Marion to kind of find places where you haven't been. Just kind of tease in, like, how did you get into cycling? How did the whole bikepacking thing start for you too?
Well, you've always been obsessed with biking.
Yeah.
Yes, really, from a young age. And then,
well, we met at school, and I guess I was starting to race cross country at high school, and we did our first cycle touring trip together at sixth form at high school. So it's been
with our town bikes and our shopping panniers. Well, you had a rucksack, I had my panniers.
It was the first stage of the evolution of bikepacking, I like to refer to it as. But so we've always, I've always mountain biked mostly. I've never done a huge amount of road riding, but as tours have progressed, I guess I've done more and more on the road. And I think we've both been mountain biking pretty much with or without kit ever since, haven't we?
Yeah, I think I got into biking because of you, but now it's what I like to do.
So how long has that been then? Quite a number of years then, no? Uncountable as the journeys.
17? Is it 17 years? Yeah. So yeah.
Naomi, for you, a little bit later?
Significantly less. I started cycling to work, really, commuting, and bumped into a girl in the changing rooms who was a mad keen mountain biker. She just started with her boyfriend who was like crazy fast, and she wanted someone to chum around, so I joined her and absolutely loved it. And that was about 8 years ago, I would say. And then 7 years ago, my marriage at the time sort of fell apart, and I used biking kind of as an opportunity for me to just sort of get out and spend some time on my own, and so 7 years probably is about as long as I've been riding seriously.
So seriously, what does seriously mean?
Seriously. Well, I suppose with some sort of level of commitment. I mean, I had always been quite sporty at school. I swam sort of a county level, so I liked the competition side of things, and Strava kind of got me hooked into riding things fast and seeing how I sort of stacked up against others, and I seemed to do okay, so I used that as an opportunity to just go on and try racing. The racing side of things sort of fell through a bit because I had an injury a few years ago on my foot, and so I was out of action for a good sort of 6 to 8 months with operations and things. But the last couple of years is as long as I've been doing it, sort of with any kind of enthusiasm.
Yeah, and quite successfully as well.
Well, yeah, I seem to have been doing okay. I don't know, I suffer a bit from imposter syndrome, I think, because I've always got an excuse for why I do well at a race. You know, either someone has mechanicals, or, you know, maybe the fastest people don't turn up, or, you know, so I think it's quite common in the sport that people feel this way, but yeah, I'm doing okay. I'm really pleased with how my season's going.
Brilliant. Just talking about racing, Ed and Marion, you entered Glentress 7 and you won it, and you came fourth for the second time.
Yeah, I know.
So how does that work?
That was great.
Marion always does well in racing. It's frustrating.
So I had done it a couple of times, and I thought last year, well, you know, I've been doing quite a lot of riding, I'll just have a go. And I just went along, you know, I wanted to do it solo just to see how that went. I'd done a race a couple of weeks previously that had been taken around 6.5 hours, so I knew I could ride for nearly 7 hours without falling off and dying. But I think because I didn't have any expectation of, I didn't really know what the competition was like, I just thought, oh, well, I'll go and have a nice time. It was a beautiful sunny day. And I started, you know, halfway down the pack at the start, and I just went out to have a good time. But when they didn't have the results, so you do like a lap and you see how many laps you can go in 7 hours. They weren't announcing the results every time I came through the lap, so I just had no idea how I was doing until I finished. And then someone was like, oh, you won. So that was quite cool. I think I did better because I wasn't putting any pressure on myself. I was just having a nice time. But it was a nice surprise.
And that's something that I really noticed. So I did the Strath Puffer that was my first sort of big race last year, and then I did it again this year. And going back to a race and doing it a second time, you go in with sort of all these expectations, and people know who you are, and there's just loads and loads of pressure on yourself. But the first year that I did it, I was a complete unknown. It was the first time I'd ever done anything like it, and so it was just a case of sort of going and enjoying yourself, actually. And
so I'm doing it again in 2 weeks' time, and I'm really trying to be like, no, I'm just going to go and have fun, it doesn't matter. But I know I'll get to start then.
Did you do Strath Puffer as well then? Because I know Ed was doing Strath Puffer this year. I must say I did Strath Puffer myself, and I was the person who rode 6 laps and then decided it's not for me and rode home. So
I met Markus in the middle of the night, and I was struggling, and Markus said to me, I think I'm going to cycle home now. And I didn't say anything, and then I carried on riding, and then thought, did Markus say he was going to ride home? Yeah, he did. Okay.
So that's quite interesting. So, I mean, the thing which I found quite amusing, but we're just talking about, I think possibly we're going to talk about the 5 rules of bikepacking a little bit later, but it's a very controversial thing. I think everyone has to have a little bit of a controversial thing on the blog. I think Ed's achieved that with that article big time. But in kind of approach your approach to cycling. So Naomi, it's the result that really gets you out there, or is it the? Are you riding for the experience, or are you riding to get a good result in a race, or is it a mixture of both?
It is a mixture of both, because it's not just the racing that I do. I also do sort of long distance trails as well. So I've ridden the West Highland Way. We were just talking about that. The Great Glen Way. I've ridden John Muir Way. All of these, and it's as much about the experience when I'm doing that as about, you know, riding it really, really fast. I like riding really fast as well, so, you know, bonus. But I've met loads and loads of amazing people through cycling, and I like just as much as going out and racing, going out and just riding a bike with some mates and having a laugh and, yeah, enjoying the trails.
What about you two?
I think bikepacking for me, the real attraction is the sense of freedom. Like the bikepacking that we do, we take our tent and our stove, and wherever we are, we just kind of set off. And there's this just amazing sense, because you're relatively self-sufficient. Yes, you need to find a river to get some water, and you maybe need to stock up on food every few days, but you know, you can just ride as far as you want, and you've got your tent. Sometimes you can find somewhere to camp. If you find a nice place, you can just stop, chill out. If you're having a good day where you want to carry on going, you can just keep going, get some miles in. I think that's, yeah. I mean, I like the racing side of it as well, but I think I like just the freedom and going exploring cool places.
And with the two of you, did you start bikepacking simultaneously, or did one go ahead and the other one
We've always
joined
done
in?
trips. I've done more trips than Marion has, but not many more. We've done most things together. It seems to work quite well. When I cycled to India, Marion said she'd had enough in Georgia, which was probably fair enough. So I carried on my own, which was interesting actually, because it was really interesting seeing the change in the dynamic. So when we were together as a couple, maybe it's probably the way we work. We kind of stuck together and maybe didn't interact with people as much. And then as soon as I set off on my own, I was on my own and I was forced to go and meet people. So the first night first day I rode 40k on my own. I left Marion in Tbilisi, and I met an Iranian guy in Georgia, and he said, "Oh, do you want to come in broken English? Do you want to come and stay with me?" And I said, "Yeah, why not? I'll come." And so we went to his house, and I was thinking, with Marion, we would have just said, "Oh, thank you," but no, and carried on. And as a result of that, I met some great people, and probably maybe had more of a immersive, I guess, experience being on my own. I don't know if that's true for everyone, but that certainly seems to be the way it works. Which I thought was quite interesting. But yeah, mostly we do go together though. So.
And do you go out on your own then as well, Marion?
I haven't been on any big trips on my own, I guess. We tended to do those as a two, because then you can share carrying all the stuff.
I guess you're not allowed to take panniers then.
So I take the Adventurous bags, and she has panniers with all the stuff in there. That's what people joke about. But we did do. It was interesting. We did a tour. So kind of it was part of this stage of moving from panniers, because we already started off with panniers and then moved to bikepacking bags. On one of the tours, Marion took 2 lightweight panniers, and I took kind of a similar setup to this with a big frame bag. So when we rode the Pamir Highway in Tajikistan, and it was really interesting because the headwinds there were very strong, and Marion she had less weight in the panniers because they were quite small and very lightweight and didn't fill them up particularly. But the wind had a massive impact, and we tried to then swap panniers for bikepacking bags, swap them over the bikes, but true to form, the rack bolts sheared, and when we were changing it, so then the rack was stuck on Marion's bike. But it shows 2 downsides of panniers, because you've got I think racks inherently are more unreliable, and also it shows you that wind resistance is such a difference. It was just so much easier with the bikepacking bags, and it was interesting. That was the last tour we ever used panniers on.
Well, and then the pannier disintegrated on one of the rough roads we rode on, and that was really the end of panniers for me.
Literally.
Well, it's possibly a good starting point. Just kind of, we've got Ed's bike here. What is the stuff you're taking? You seem to be travelling very light.
So I packed it with enough kit for a Scottish kind of weekend trip for camping. So yeah, I'm very keen on efficiency and lighter stuff. Even if I'm not racing, I don't see the need to have more kit than I should. So I thought it'd be interesting. So in the bar bag, I have sleeping bag, stove, gas can, and pan. And then in the back, I have a tent, sleeping mat, spare clothes, waterproofs, and then you've got more capacity in there as well to get food in there, and then I'd either use a frame bag, which I tend not to, or strap a spare tube on there, and then that's everything you need, and then a couple of water bottles on there, or a fuel bottle will go under here, and then you can get a bit more stuff in the frame for a longer trip. So yeah, people are always amazed that you can get everything in there, but that's everything you need. So
can I ask a question then? You're both very tall, so you don't have that problem, but my bike wouldn't fit any of those bikes. I have your specifications of the Adventurous. I have that much space between the saddle and the wheel.
Is that right?
What do you do in this case?
I'm surprised, because your bike is it's quite small comparatively, and you've never had a problem. We use this bag here for the bar bag is very high. There's a lot of clearance. I know this is a huge head tube, but you can get it up. With the saddle pack,
I guess the saddle pack that I've used has been slightly smaller than that.
Yeah. So Marion uses the 14 litre one, which, unfortunately, I guess it's
somebody tall to carry you.
The solution is it's probably looking at where else you can get. So using the fork luggage, I would say, and whether you can get anything in the seat stays is another option. I put on there the water bottle mount that we use. So if I use a full frame bag, I have one water bottle there and one water bottle there, and then this has another mount here. So you can always, I would think that would be the other place I would try and stash stuff, and then try and get the smallest seat pack. But sorry. I'll feed it back to them if you like.
Yeah, and so when you go where you share certain things, or is there any items you don't share?
Pants.
Okay.
No, usually I can get in all the stuff, communal stuff, pretty much on my bike, and you'll carry the food and first aid kit maybe, but that's generally how we split the stuff up.
Good stuff. We come back to the rules of bikepacking. Just Naomi, I had a look at some of the articles, and it was quite. I came across this quote here: "Before rolling over, and pretending it's not happening, I remember that today I've got to be a full-time mom, an IT project manager, and train for 3 hours. I'll have to go and I'm going to have to be a bit creative with my day. How does that all fit in a day?"
Well, it's this sort of oxymoron, I suppose, of 24-hour racing and actually just loving sleep. I could probably sleep maybe 23 hours out of a day, eat and toilet the rest. But to train for that sort of length of activity, you have to really stack up the training. And so with working full time and with having kids to look after school, the only spare time really that I have during the day is before they get up. So typically in a week, when I've got my kids with me, I'll get up sort of 5 in the morning maybe, and either jump on my training bike or go out on my mountain bike outside and make sure I'm back to get them up and get them breakfast.
Yeah, no, I saw it on the blog. So you do a couple of hours and then you wake your kids up and then you get them ready. And
they're older, they're fairly self-sufficient now, so
okay.
They can, it's not like I have to get them up and dress them and clean their teeth. They do need quite a lot of chili to get out of bed, so typically I'll have to chase them a few times, but
okay.
They're used to it now. They just sort of expect to get up, and if they don't find me in my bedroom, then they know that I'm in the garage on the bike or outside.
And how many days a week do you have to do that?
It sort of depends what I'm told. I got myself a coach at the end of last year, and so before then I'd been really sort of winging it, I suppose. So now I get a training plan every week, and typically I'm training sort of 5 or 6 times a week, and so maybe 2 or 3 times before work during the week I'll get up and train.
And then I read also when you watch telly, you do workout.
Yeah.
It's quite incredible.
Oh, that's it. And my daughter's really funny because she likes to join in, and so I'm sort of doing my sit-ups or whatever, and she'll come and she'll do one, and she'll be like, oh man, that's so horrible, so impossible, but it gets them trying at least.
Yeah.
So,
how old are they?
11 and 15.
So they're cycling as well then?
My son's a gamer. Getting him outside actually is pretty difficult, but Amelia enjoys it, so she will come out on occasion.
Wow. And do they come to races then as well?
Zach's been, yeah. He came to Relentless, which is a 24-hour race up in Fort William at the tail end of last year, with the express purpose of helping. I think maybe he got me a cup of tea once and spent the rest of the time sleeping or playing on his phone. So
I was just I would have asked how do you keep them entertained, because it might be I've raced 24-hour races myself, and I think being support crew is possibly the most it's quite an intense but also quite a boring job at the same time.
It
because
really
nothing really
is.
happens.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm really thankful. So Charlie, who's sitting in the front row there, is my partner, and he's come along and helped me out with the races that I've done so far. And the support job is probably harder than the riding in terms of keeping yourself motivated, because I'm out there riding a bike. That keeps me awake. He's got to stay awake. He's got to think about what food I want the next time I come in, whether I'm going to need to change my bottles, whether I need to change my kit. He's got to, be upbeat and try and keep me motivated to keep going out. And all the time he's tired and just sort of standing around, often in the cold, probably the wet. So yeah, they're sort of the unsung heroes of 24-hour racing, the guys who stay in the pit and look after you. So there.
Do you guys do 20? I know Ed's doing 24 hours.
Marion has never supported me once. I just want to say it'd be great. I hope she's listening. No, it's very difficult to support for 24 hours and stay awake. So usually I've been doing it with someone else who's doing it in a team or stop and sort myself out.
How did you do Strap Buffer then? Were you by yourself?
No, a couple of friends actually were racing it, and it was a last minute thing. I got a last minute entry, so I had no preparation for it. So I just went into it because they offered a place at the last minute, and so it was all a bit rushed. Luckily, I ride my bike every day, so I felt like I was probably okay to do it. And then so we're about a week and a half's notice, probably 14 days. So yeah, could have been better prepared.
You finished in a pretty good position, I think. Better than me.
Yeah,
I wasn't
I
last.
don't know, 6 laps is good.
Yeah, 6 laps was enough. Yeah. Talking about that, it's just the other thing when I did some research, gear. How important. Right on your blog, everything's nicely laid out to get over the thing of not having the excuse that you're not ready in time.
Yeah, absolutely. I am habitually lazy, so I will quite comfortably think of excuses to not get up and go out. Like I say, I really like sleep, so I need to make sure that I have absolutely no excuses. And yeah, that's one of the things that I do at night. I'll sit my kit right next to the bed so that I don't have to fish around and find it in the morning. The question was about kit or about being ready, because kit's like crazy important.
Let's talk about kit then.
Because we've talked about bikes, right, and bags and stuff like that. And I sort of ride in all conditions. The Strath Puffer's in the heart of the winter, so this year I was really lucky. It was very dry and I didn't have to change my clothes very much, but then 3 weeks later I did another 24-hour race in Kielder, and it just rained perpetually, and then there was snow and there were massive puddles underneath, and I went through all of my kit, I think, during that race. And you just have to plan for that. You have to plan for needing absolutely everything you've got. So
how do you plan? Is that like a set routine? Or
how do you plan? I tend to go through my drawers and throw everything in the bag.
Yeah.
And I have bottoms in one bag, and I have tops in another bag, and I have shoes in a box, and a spare gloves and socks and all of the bits that you need, all separate, so that when I come in I can just say, right, I need to change my bottoms, or the next lap I need to change this, and it can be fairly easily found for me.
And how many sets do you go to in a 24-hour race?
I think the worst thing that I did was I did a winter West Highland Way, or we did an attempted West Highland Way duathlon with a friend of mine who's a runner, and Charlie did some of the running, did the running as well. And we got to Glencoe, and I had been through 2 cycles of both of my sets of longs, and they'd had to sort of dry out in the van. I'd been through all 4 of my waterproof jackets, my boots, 2 pairs of shoes, overshoes, goodness knows how many jerseys and base layers, and all of my gloves, and they just weren't drying. So Glencoe was pretty much where we called it a day and turned around. But yeah, you use a lot of kit when it's bad.
That's what about? It's quite interesting because I found the quote about that one where you just kind of basically said, well, you know, it wasn't meant to be the whole distance, and you made it an adventure, called it a day, and were quite happy with that.
Yeah.
Or was that?
It was an amazing thing. So the idea sort of came from, I did the Strathpuffer with this chap Stuart, and as a pair this year. And the idea really came from him. He does all of these crazy things, and sort of said, I wonder if it's possible to do West Highland Way, cycle it one way and run it the other. And you know, that pricked my attention straight away. I'm like, oh, I've cycled the West Highland Way, I know it's totally doable. Charlie's run it, I know that it's runnable. And so we just concocted this ridiculous plan that in February I'd ride it with Stuart, we'd get to the end, Stuart would turn around and he'd run it back with Charlie. And I guess part of the experience for us wasn't about completing the thing that we'd set out to do, it was about having the actual experience and, you know, imagining this crazy thing and just going off and doing it. And we didn't get all the way to Fort William, but we had a pretty good stab at it, and it was loads and loads of fun. Type 2 fun, but loads of fun.
Can I just ask, was the weather bad when you started?
Yes.
Did you have the option to
We did.
go for this, or do we turn around?
We did, and there was a lot of deliberation about it actually. We'd been talking about it all week. Part of the reason that we chose that weekend was because a friend of Stuart's wanted to film it. And we were both free a fortnight later, which turned out to be the most glorious weekend. But the video guy wasn't. And so it was a really difficult decision to whether we would go ahead with it or try for the fortnight later. And in the end we thought...
Did you make a decision to call it quits?
Oh, okay.
I imagine that the minute it drag you all in and say, that's it.
Yeah, we all did. It was very much a joint effort. We sat down in the visitors at the cafe place in Glencoe, and we had a chat about it. And it was sort of threefold, really. The first thing was the weather had been atrocious. There was so much water, and the trails were just covered in enormous puddles. And the section that comes down off the top of the Devil's Staircase into Kinloch even has a river crossing that's got big boulders, and we were actually not sure we would get across there. The time that it would have taken us from there to get to Fort William to then turn round again would have meant that we probably wouldn't have made it back to Glasgow until either the very early hours of Monday morning or possibly later, depending on disaster. And Charlie, as it happens, was Charlie's a doctor, and he was either on call on that Monday or on the wards that week, so he physically had to be home. And then there was the question of kit, and we were fast running out. So with all of those things, we just sat down and talked about it.
Can you do it again?
We did still then run back 77 miles.
Yeah,
so we didn't quite call it quits.
Oh yeah, we were already skiing.
I was tucking into bacon and eggs at Glencoe thinking I had another 5 hours of support. And I was like, look, you're running now.
Incredible.
Just funny to say that you just went to Glencoe and back.
Well, that's it, right? Yeah, Glencoe and back, and I mean that's an amazing feat anyway, right? Glencoe and back. So yeah, I mean it was still a success as far as we were concerned.
That's pretty good. Just because I think this is a good starting point for starting with the 5 rules of bikepacking. It's quite interesting because I think both me and Ed seem to be kind of the same kind of fabric of bikepacker. I think there's a bikepacking is pretty much people who are racing against the clock and trying to do incredible distances in a day, and then there's people like us with a camera and a cup of coffee. Just kind of like Ed and Marion, both of you, bikepacking. What gets you out there? What's the drive? What's the thing that gets you on the bike and go for a trip? Or
I guess it started as a way of travelling, and really getting a cool and unique experience of travelling into places that we'd never been before. And you, on a bike, you're more accepted, and kind of from the cycle touring point of view. But then when you're cycle touring, you have those boring days when you've got a huge straight road and nothing's happening, and it can be quite tedious. And people may opt to get the train or other things, but you know, if you're on a bike fully loaded with panniers, it can be quite tough. So by going lighter and taking the bikepacking approach, I think it then opens up, you can cover a couple 100 kilometres that day and get somewhere more interesting, and then slow down when you're at a more interesting place, or someone offers you a place to sleep, or there's an experience or a side trip. But then you've got that kind of to factor in, because you can cover the distances, I think, more easily, and it's kind of that mindset of light and fast, but you're not racing anyone. Is kind of where I come from.
So does it depend on where you get to? So you have those dull and boring days, which I think is quite a normal thing, especially if you're out for a couple of weeks or months.
Yeah.
But you've also got those days where you just only do a shorter distance because it's actually quite interesting what you're doing, or you meet some interesting people.
I think that's the beauty of bikepacking. You just don't really know what's going to happen each day or who you're going to meet, because you're just going to stop somewhere random because you're tired and you want to eat some sweets, and then someone will come and talk to you, and then you'll end up going to drink a cup of tea with them, or you'll be camping. I'm thinking about when we cycled through Turkey was a good place for random encounters, because the people we spent about a month probably cycling the Black Sea coast on our way across Europe to Central Asia, and just every day you could barely stop your bike anywhere without people coming up to you and trying to feed you or take you somewhere to let you stay at their house, or you know, we camp on the beach, and one time people came up and they'd seen us pitch our quite small tent and, you know, start cooking, and they came over because they said that they thought our tent was a bit small and surely we weren't going to be able to sleep very well, and they had a much bigger tent with a big comfy mattress, and wouldn't we like to come and sleep in their tent? They'd go and sleep in their car so that we could sleep in their comfy tent and have a good night's sleep. And just, I don't know, just so many random experiences. You never know who you're going to meet or what's going to happen.
The other thing I was thinking is distance is all relative, because we, in like the end of last year, we cycled into kind of part of Tibet, which you can still access, but on the way in, we didn't have a map that told us altitude, and we left on the first day, and we were going quite slowly, and Marion was complaining, and we kind of got a bit upset at the top of the first climb because it was quite hard work. And I said, it's fine, why are we going so slowly? And I'd given her some quite easy gears because I knew there'd be altitude coming up at some point. And anyway, we got on with it, and the next day we only did 40 kilometres, and I was thinking, this is ridiculous, how can you only do 40 kilometres? And we looked, and we'd been at 4,300 metres first 2 days after a 3,800 metre pass on day one. And I said, hands up, yeah, that's my bad. we were going slowly because there wasn't much option. So it's just that kind of, yeah, you just go, if we've been pushing hard, you know, maybe we'd have had issues with altitude sickness and things like that. And it's just listening to your body and seeing what you experience, isn't it? I think. Yeah. But, yeah.
Did you make him pay for it? Did he carry the panniers after that?
He'd given me rap for being in like my granny gear, and so then he couldn't complain after that. It was a very good reason that I was in the mom gear.
So how do you, because you've been to some amazing destinations, how do you pick where you go? Is that a random thing, or is there?
Beauty of Google Maps, isn't it? And then you go, I'm going to go there, and then it becomes reality. I don't know. It's amazing the time we live in, because you can get anywhere on a plane. It's bad because we've become quite well. We started off doing long trips, and our lifestyle allowed us to do a lot more kind of longer trips. I worked 8 months of the year, so we had 4 months off, and in between contracts and things. So we had the opportunity to do longer trips, and I think that's fantastic because you're not flying places, you're using the bike to travel between places, and it's great. More recently, now we've been back in Scotland, we've kind of got less time to do these trips, so we tend to fly into places, which is, I find from a sustainability point of view, quite frustrating. But at the same time, it's beautiful to go to these places, and they're changing fast, and I want to go and see these places before the Chinese ruin them further, for example, in Tibet. And it's kind of finding that balance, I guess. Kind of gone off topic.
But yeah, no, it's fine.
Yeah, I think we're quite interested to see places that we feel like are changing quite a lot. And so, for example, last year we went to Tibet, but the year before we went to Tajikistan and did the Pamir Highway, and we cycled through an area called the Wakhan Valley, which is sort of on the border of Tajikistan and Afghanistan. So we were in Tajikistan, but the other side of the river that we were cycling on was Afghanistan. And it's that area of Afghanistan is quite isolated from the rest of Afghanistan. It's like a little finger of land that sticks out. But it was a fascinating valley to cycle on because although if you followed the road from the nearest big town, it did carry on and join up with the highway again. It was quite a bad road, so it wasn't really kind of through traffic going through there. And so up the end of the valley, it's probably one of the only places that I've been that you couldn't buy a can of Coca-Cola. There weren't any plastic bottles in the shops, which meant that there wasn't any rubbish hardly at all. People were very self-sufficient up there. We're growing a lot of their pretty much everything that they ate up there.
We were showing the watermill where they ground their own flour. So the villagers would come with a sack of grain, and then the day later the guy he was wearing an Adidas tracksuit, to be fair, so it wasn't quite that cut off, but he would then give them back. But and that was how they got their bread. There was no shop, it was amazing,
Yeah, so it was a really interesting place to see, because you kind of think, well, there's only so long it's going to be like that before. I mean, people had a smartphone and stuff, like it wasn't. They had better smartphones than we had.
They were on past the
were
network 4G before we were here. Yeah.
And are you camping most of the time, or are you staying in hotels?
Tajikistan was good because a charity had been through and helped people in all the villages set up homestays in their homes. So I think it just sort of advised them on what sort of thing that tourists might expect from a homestay and kind of what to charge and what to feed people and stuff. But it meant that it was a really nice way to sort of immerse yourself a bit more in the kind of culture, especially with that language barrier. To be able to go and stay in someone's home and eat what they're having for dinner and be a bit nosy and stuff. It was, and also it means that you can kind of, I don't know, spread a bit of income. Like each village you go to, you stay with someone who lives there, and so you're contributing to their economy each time. So in Tajikistan we stayed in a lot of homestays just because they were there, and it was a really nice opportunity to meet people.
We camped on the first night we came down to the Afghan border from the plateau, the Pamir Plateau, and there was a military base at the end of the valley with a tank parked up and 2 armed soldiers, and we were thinking, this is a stupid idea. Why are we cycling to Afghanistan effectively? So then we had no option but to camp that night. So we rode past the checkpoint where the guy demanded iPod headphones off us at gunpoint, and I didn't have any, so that was a bit scary.
Big disappointment.
Yeah, we were disappointed.
No cigarettes.
So anyway, we carried on, and just thinking, one of the few nights we camped, and while camping at the best times, somewhere new to you can be a little bit intimidating, but in the night, a group of horsemen were charging along from the Afghan side in the middle of nowhere, and we were thinking, this is the prime drug smuggling route into the Western world, so it probably wasn't the best place. So we didn't have a great night there, but nothing happened, and it was fine. And I think that's always what you learn when you wild camp. It's usually better than you think.
Did you have any bad experiences at all? Or?
We never had a bad experience wild camping. We're quite careful, I guess, about where we wild camp. We try and tuck ourselves away. But on our trip to Tibet last year, we were wild camping pretty much.
We did get attacked by wolves one night, didn't we?
We didn't get attacked by wolves.
They took an interest in us all.
Happily, we were camped next to a rubbish dump, which was why the wolves were there. But they were, in the end, more interested in the rubbish dump than they were in us, because we'd eaten all our food.
Okay, that's cool.
Slept really well that night.
So this is it's quite interesting, because I also read a little bit about risk. That sounds like risk. How do you if you go to those remote places, how do you judge whether it's safe or not, or do you just go there and trust your gut feeling?
I think a lot of these places are, although they sound quite intimidating, unknown, I guess.
Yes.
The people out there seem to be, I don't know, so nice.
Yeah,
it's amazing how
was going to say
Get
from the
people out
roads.
to you.
Yeah, the roads generally. There's, I feel
roads.
for cycling on the roads itself, I think it's a lot safer in a lot of places because although they drive crazy fast, you can hear them coming and there's less traffic, and tend to be more courteous of you as a cyclist. So, from that point of view, I think I'd rather cycle from one side of the country in Central Asia, even. I was going to say Nepal, but that wasn't a good example. In places you think of as crazy drivers, because there's less traffic and because you're a novelty, I think people tend to pull round and I feel safer. Whereas places like America, the UK, I find it's a very high risk place to cycle and bike pack. And I think, yeah, the other risks are more in your mind than what you experience in terms of what could happen and what does happen.
So the main risk in places like Tibet and the Panas was probably the weather and having enough kit, finding a supply of water when it's quite late to freeze overnight and that sort of thing. I mean, we always take winter camping kit with us, so we are quite well prepared, even with the small bags. You can, I guess, because we've been doing it for quite a few years, we've kind of gradually stocked up on lightweight but winter style gear. So we are quite self-sufficient from that point of view, but at places like the Panas, it was boiling hot one day and then it snowed overnight and there's snow on the ground the next day, so you do have to take enough kit that you can deal with all of that.
Is there ever a situation where one blames the other one for being in a certain situation?
I wasn't very happy that night for Afghanistan. Was it's like there was camels as well. There's camels there. I was like, they were terrible. What's happening? But anyway, yeah.
Camels were fine. They weren't aggressive.
No, they're fine. No, I don't know. Sometimes we say it's going to be the last. We always say it's the last trip when we come back. I was the last day in Tibet at the end of last year. I got very sick and was. I don't tell the whole story. I'm not probably shouldn't.
Ed was barely able to cycle his bike, which for Ed means something seriously wrong.
But this is it's a good example of bikepacking and cycle touring in general, where I nearly passed out on the side of the road because I've been just trying to keep Coca-Cola down and I couldn't keep it down. And then we said, this is ridiculous, there's no traffic, we're never going to get anywhere. And then a shiny pickup truck turned up, stopped and offered us a lift. And wow, this is amazing. So then I sat in the back of the pickup truck, trying my best not to make a mess in his pickup truck, and we got driven to the nearest town. And it's things like that yeah, it's always something works out in the end, I think, doesn't it? But we always say it at the time, this is the last time.
And your brain does that thing where it forgets all of it. They were really bad, and it remembers all the nice sunrises and the starry nights, and then you go again.
So it's, because we've got some of the pictures here in the background, and some of them are incredible. So picture-wise, is it both of you sharing that, or?
Ed's the master photographer, and he's the one who has to lug the several kilograms of camera around with it.
Okay, so that's the lightweight kit, then.
Yeah, but that's the terrible irony, right? We've got this lightweight kit and then a massive camera.
I do, yeah, because I take pictures for Adventurous as well, and I always say this is ridiculous because I'm taking as much kit to take photos of the lightweight kit.
So the kit you pack should weigh less than your bike.
Yes.
So that's the case? Well,
I think so. I think it's a reasonable. At some point,
rule.
This is rule number 3, is it? I do think there's a logic here, because if you go lighter, in your kit, you can go lighter in your wheels, because the wheels don't have to take as much weight, and it all kind of fits together. I think that's the kind of the logic I was going with. So if you're taking a lot of kit, you have to take heavier wheels, and you have to take a heavier rack, and it all starts adding up. But the less kit you take, the lighter wheels you can get away with, lighter tyres you can get away with, and it all starts to come down together. So that's kind of what I was getting at with that.
that was
People didn't always agree with that.
That's the second rule of bikepacking.
Yes.
The first rule of bikepacking is there's no panniers allowed. But you're allowed to take a basket. So you just take a basket for some flowers and your baguette if you need. But wax and panniers are no-go. But you're also saying that you don't have a picture with a basket of flowers with you on the trip.
The reason that story came out, we were at a very sketchy border point into Tajikistan from Kyrgyzstan, and we were just bracing ourselves to have to pay a lot of US dollars over, and a French guy rocks up with a bike with a basket on, and took their attention and put it that way when he had minimal kit and was doing it in good style. I have to put it, I'll leave it like that. So they kind of lost interest in us and went to this flamboyant Frenchman, and we got through without any problems. But fair play to him for crossing the Pamiers with not much kit, other than a basket. So.
Just in terms of risk, Naomi, has there ever been a situation in one of those 24-hour races where you said, "That's it, I'm not doing it. I'm too tired." Excuses.
There's always that occasion.
Okay.
That occasion happens pretty much every race, and I've said this to a number of people that one of the biggest parts of 24-hour racing isn't so much your sort of fitness and your skill on the bike. It's the head game that's involved, because everyone gets to that point in the night where they just want to go to sleep, and you're absolutely exhausted and your eyes are sort of shutting while you're riding over fairly technical stuff, and I guess where perhaps I benefit here is because I'm pretty stubborn, and I just tend to keep going. And the first 24-hour race I did, I made the stupid mistake of not having any caffeine. I'm a 40-something mother of two. My bladder isn't what it used to be, and now if I have any kind of diuretic, I just need to stop constantly. And I was really, really paranoid about having to go to the toilet every lap. So I decided I wasn't going to have any caffeine and just hit a complete wall at sort of 2 in the morning and slept. And that's the only time I ever did it, because after that I learned and had caffeine. And
so do you ride the whole time?
Yeah.
Without any breaks in between?
Well, I mean, you sort of, it's all lap based, like the 7-hour race. So you come into a pit stop every lap, and you maybe stop for a couple of minutes, have a swig of whatever, Coke or tea or hot soup or a mouthful of pasta or anything that you can stomach by that stage, and then head off again. And the less time you stop, the easier it is to go back out again.
Yeah, there's a just trying I had a friend. Yeah, but just I found a quote from Mike Hall about this, which fits pretty well. The winner who will be the guy who lives fast, and necessarily one who rides fast. So I think it's quite an interesting thing. So, but there's never been like a point where you kind of said, "That's it, I'm done with it. I'm not doing this any longer." Not yet. What's the motivation to get you out there? Because I think it must be quite a monotonous thing, doing one lap after another, and usually the course gets worse on those races.
It does. It's really tedious. It's really tedious.
So where's the enjoyment?
It's sort of after the fact enjoyment. It's the type 2 fun thing, and it's what you guys were both saying about the sort of romanticizing about it afterwards. During the course of the event, it becomes less and less pleasant. Because that's like middle third. You've done 8 hours, and by the end of the 8 hours, really most normal people should stop.
That's what I did.
And that middle 8 hours is just the pits, because you're already tired by this point. You're already hurting, but everyone is. And I guess, like I was saying, it's the head game. It's constantly remembering that everyone feels the same way, and they're feeling it worse than you. And as long as you can kind of get that mindset, if they're feeling it worse than me, so it's fine, I should just keep going.
Are you looking at other people in the race? Do you look at people who might be competing with you? Just to kind of see what they're doing and just kind of trying to stick on their wheel? Or?
I try really hard not to.
Okay.
Because it's such a long event, you really just got to ride your own race. The worst thing you can do is try and race someone, because you'll end up going too fast and blowing up, and then not being able to keep going. And so much can happen in 24 hours. You could have a ridiculous mechanical that means you can't ride for an hour, or your race is over. And so, there comes a point where you maybe start looking at what everyone else is doing, but it's usually only in the last sort of 4 hours.
And what's the feeling like? Because when after 24 hours, is that relief? Is it happiness? Is it just not having energy to think anything at all?
it's an overwhelming sense of achievement,
Yeah.
usually, and the sort of sense of camaraderie of everyone that's taken part, and just, you know, everyone sort of congratulates everyone else, however your race went, and yeah, exhaustion and hunger and need for sleep and probably feeling sick and all of those things.
So how long does it take until you recover from a race again?
I'm usually back riding my bike within sort of 3 or 4 days, but it's like an hour riding really slowly on the flat. A couple of weeks maybe,
Okay.
until I'm training again.
So you go into the 24-hour World Champs in 3 weeks?
3 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3
How's that
weeks.
going, preparation-wise?
It's going fine. It's going fine. My bike is broken. It's not stressing me out at all. It'll go the way it goes. I'm going to pitch up. I'm going to ride to the best of my ability and just really enjoy being on the same stage as the world's best. So,
Where is it?
it's in the north of Italy, in Finale Ligure. Yeah, it's going to be incredible. And warm, unlike anything I've done before.
Interesting. Just kind of thinking back, biggest reward for leaving the front door? 3 of you. Or what gets you out? Especially, let's take if it's today is possibly not the best day as an example. if it's raining and it's quite miserable and you know what's.
I enjoy that.
Yeah.
In some ways. I don't know. I don't train as such. I just make sure I ride to work every day, basically, for race training, and that gets me out. And then when I'm out, I know I'll have a good time. It's like the rain smashing your face. You're thinking, this is living and kind of experiencing it. And I don't know. People think I'm crazy. I know, but if you're thinking, I think people will overtake me, pity me, and think, oh, geez, that guy's cycling in this weather, it's horrible, what's he doing? And I'm thinking, those guys are just cocooned in their car and missing out. So anyway, that's the kind of, whatever the weather, I know you can have a good time.